All right, you can see the sun just coming up in the background there. Just wanted to run through a couple things here with some of these aftermarket kits. Obviously, everybody has a budget they're working with. If you got an old saw, some of the OEM stuff might not even be available for it. So I think we all kind of do the best we can with the budget we've got, the utility or the amount we rely on our equipment. And so I'm not going to get into the negatives too much, but there are a couple things you need to watch for with the aftermarket kits when you're reassembling, especially. Some of our circlips, there's a little bit of variety in, I don't know if that showed up very good. We'll try and get some, anyway, the shape of them. So some of them have a real long single tab on the one side. Some of these other ones, they do kind of a loop on either side. At first try, you'll think it's pretty convenient, except for getting into the bag, pretty convenient to have the that extra loop on there for your install, because you kind of think it's going to make it easier, whether you're using a screwdriver to hook it in with or a set of needle nose pliers. But you want to be really careful, because I found some of these ones fairly prone to snapping off. And there was one guy in one of the chainsaw groups yesterday posted where he'd done a Stihl MS261, and that tab on that circlip had broke off, and then it ended up cutting his piston and cylinder, so he was back to square one. That was a aftermarket kit too. So what I do is I'll snip these off, just maybe like, I don't know if that's going to show up, hope it does, that high above it. Okay, so safety squints engaged, and there we go. Okay, and then keep an eye out for those little pieces. You don't want that getting somewhere where it shouldn't either, whether it's going to get stuck on the magnet on your flywheel or whatever. But anyway, so then I'm working with something like that. Normally that's lots. I just actually put one in on this one. This is going back on that Husky 365. What I find is by putting the wrist pin in part way, and I'll just use the old one that came out of it that was all scuffed up here, but I can basically slide it in about that far, and then that kind of blocks the back of the hole so that circlip doesn't pop all the way through the back. And then if I want, I'd position it kind of like that, hold that tab, or hold it with my thumb, and then just hook on it with the screwdriver and pull it in. And what my thumb's doing is trying to prevent it from going ping across the shop. Okay, so basically I got her almost in, and then now it's in. You want to make sure, two things, I guess. Number one, that there is actually a groove in here. I had one on a highway kit for a 261 a couple years ago. They'd forgot to put that groove in. So if you weren't paying attention, stick that little circlip in there, it's just going to rattle out because the wrist pin's going to push against it and slide it out and then get you. And you want to really make sure that this thing is actually engaged in that groove. And you want to think about where the open part is. So you don't want the gap up, you want the gap down. And the reason for that is when the combustion occurs and there's a pretty good push on this piston coming down, that it seats this closed, so the inertia or momentum is going down. That makes this thing spread open and against it so that it tightens up. If it's the other way, then there's a theory that it can close with that effort and potentially spit that circlip back out. So make sure that you've got your opening or the tabs down. Okay, and then another thing you want to think about, and I might mention it to Brendan there from his post yesterday, but there's a real variety in the lengths of the wrist pins and the spacing of these grooves in these pistons. And so it can be really tempting to reuse your OEM wrist pin. But if you do that, oftentimes that OEM wrist pin is too long, and then your circlip won't actually seat in that groove because it can't access it. So if you're going to use that, double check your length. Often these OEM wrist pins are a little bit lighter weight because they have a bigger opening in the center. I got just a whole pile of different ones here. In fact, if I grab one off a still, if I got one here, they're usually considerably thinner, and often the hole actually tapers in. So you can save a considerable amount of weight that way. But like I said, if you're going to do that, you need to measure and make sure that you either trim that OEM one to the correct length, or at least be aware of it and make sure that you've got room for your circlip to seat in there. Guess that's pretty much the easy parts there. We all know to look for the arrow, which faces our exhaust port normally, and our positioning pin should be on the intake side for these ones. Still's a little different. They do have two rings. Normally one is just off the side of the exhaust port so it doesn't run into the exhaust port, and then their second one is usually also in the middle on the intake. But anyway, yeah, this is my pop-up. It's about a 30 thou, and I was saying yesterday there, I really like the shape of the combustion chamber on this one. I was just looking to see if I had the cylinder sitting here handy, but I think I left it in the other room there, cleaning it up after I did the port work on it. So anyway, get on this. Pressure and vacuum testing is always, in my opinion, essential. You want to make sure when you reassemble this that you don't have any air leaks. That basically sets you up for a disaster again, because anywhere that it sucks air, you get not enough fuel in your air-fuel mixture ratio, and then your saw is going to run lean and seize. And I went through the other day some of those potential locations. So anyway, I'll be sticking some goo on both sides of this one's gasket. I always machine mine to make sure I run a base gasket in them. I don't like the idea of just going with goo, but that's a preference, I guess. let that set up, and then do my pressure and vac test either at the end of today or probably tomorrow morning after it's sat overnight. Got a muffler mod to do, so I'll probably post a little video on that. And then I've got the 372 from this guy as well, so I might start on that one and kind of blitz those saws today. Anyway, if you're going to use these ones, then I'll normally trim both of these tabs off. Again, safety squints engaged, or your safety glasses, whatever you've got handy. You know, I really don't joke around usually about eyes, especially. I had a cousin, he was my best friend growing up. He was a little older than me and really good influence, and he ended up losing one eye when he was I think 18. That changed his life forever, and then had another mishap years later and damaged his other eye. So you only get one set, and don't take it for granted. But anyways, yeah, so I'll trim the tabs off and put her in. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, you're my people. Appreciate you being here. Have a good one.